Well, this show is for you because today we will be talking about celebrating graduation here on Austin Faith Dialogue.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. My name is Roger Bauer, and I will be the host for today's program. You know, this season, this time of the year, many seniors are anxiously awaiting their graduation, and they're anxiously awaiting the celebration of the commencement ceremonies. And we hear the faint echoes of pomp and circumstance and all the music and all the pageantry. Well, this year we're going to have a very special celebration in the Austin area. And with us to talk about the special celebration of Baccalaureate is Ellen Whittington, who is from Faith Lutheran Church, who is the Director of Education and Youth Ministry. Welcome, Ellen.
Good morning.
And with us also is Reverend Donald Bobb, who is from the pastor at Hyde Park Presbyterian Church and who is the staff coordinator at Austin Metropolitan Ministries. Welcome, Reverend.
Good morning.
You know, the high school seniors are getting ready and they're anxiously awaiting the celebration of commencement ceremonies. Can you tell us what the special ceremony for Baccalaureate is that you've been planning for Austin Metropolitan Ministries?
Yes, it started back in the fall when two of the area superintendents of Austin Independent School District, Dr. David Hill and Dr. Charles Akins, came to us at AMM and just said, we would like for the seniors to have a baccalaureate service, but it's no longer possible for the schools to organize them. And so they just said, could you do this? We pulled together a number of clergy in our inter-Christian dialogue and began to talk about what we could do. At first we thought about having maybe cluster or regional baccalaureate services for each high school, with the churches around that high school. And then we thought, hey, why not have just a citywide celebration, which is exactly what we did. And so we began to work on the planning of it, and of course Ellen has been a tremendous help here in helping us get it going, working with the seniors so that they would have an input and would be their service and not clergy doing it for them. So that's how it started.
Super, thank you. Ellen, how did you get involved in this project?
Well, we received a letter from Austin Metropolitan Ministries, and my pastor, Pastor Dean Busboom, and I sat down and talked about it. And because I do work with the youth and have some connections with some of the high schools, I said, I'll go and see what it's all about. And so I went to the meeting and started talking and trying to brainstorm and get some ideas together. And I decided that I could put some effort in there to help organize things. And we went from there.
Super. Before we go any further, Don, can you remind our viewers what actually is Austin Metropolitan Ministries and how they got connected with the City of Austin and AISD?
Well, AMM is a coalition of some 130 congregations in the city that have come together. It's almost 5 years old now, I think for three reasons. One is for service, and another is advocacy, and then the third is empowerment. Working with the community and trying to, as a religious community, trying to be of service to the Austin community as our part of our religious mandate would dictate to us.
And so what was happening is AISD decided to have all the faith expressions throughout our city to be represented in this celebration at Baccalaureate. Is that correct?
That's right, and we've tried to be as inclusive as possible.
Super, super, great. You talked about the cooperation between AISD and the churches. Can you explain a little bit more how the dialogue went between the two organizations, how long you have been involved with each other, and the meetings that have taken place? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
We actually have had a relationship with AISD for going on 2 years now. We started working on a church-school partnership. A number of congregations have had an adopt-a-school program, and which includes mentoring and tutoring and different working on some of the physical needs of the students, and counseling situations. And so what we started doing 2 years ago was pushing this a little bit further and working on support groups. And we have already some support groups led by youth ministers on the high school campuses.
Great, so you probably see an ongoing relationship. This isn't just a one-time deal.
That's right. It's not a one-time deal. It's been started. It's already, and we're even developing further relationships too, because I think the schools feel that the religious community has a function to play in helping with the educational process.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen, can you give us a little bit more detail about the actual celebration that's going to be taking place in May for the baccalaureate service? Can you give us some of the specifics surrounding the celebration of baccalaureate?
Well, first of all, it's going to be taking place at the Tony Berger Center, which is in the west side of town, near Mopac, 290 area. And it's where quite a few of the baseball and football games are held during the school season.
So they'll know where it is.
They hopefully know where it'll be. It'll be on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m., May 23rd. And what we hope for the students and for the parents who come is a bit of a contemporary worship service, an opportunity for them to express faith in their way and not as adults see it. Interestingly enough, though, they've picked one of the older hymns, traditional hymns. Amazing Grace is one of the tunes that they picked, as well as some very contemporary music that is sung currently by a lot of contemporary Christian music artists. And so that's pretty exciting. They have also brought in psalms and other things that are done by their school's mass choirs, mass bands, the mariachi group from Travis High School, the gospel choirs from Reagan and from LBJ. It's going to be an exciting event. There's going to be lots of music, lots of sharing, lots of fun. And we hope it's a time for them to come together and be one in their faith and one in the fact that they're going to another step in their life. It's not just adulthood and it's shaking of the hand and bye-bye, you're gone. It's here we are to the next step.
Right, kind of a starting point for another chapter in their life.
Absolutely.
Sounds like the youth have been very much involved in the planning process of it. Have you been meeting from time to time over the past weeks or months? How have you been organizing this and how the students come together in planning this event?
Well, we've only had a handful of students at the early part of the process. The main thing we wanted to find out from them was how not to make it boring, and they've let us know how to do that.
Right,
we want the event to be for them, by them, and as a gift to each other. And so in doing that, you need their input and their involvement. Their involvement is fixing to be scaled up some more in the coming weeks, where we'll be getting ushers together and bringing in and deciding on banners from their churches and from their schools, and that on that day that there'll be some outward signs of their bringing themselves together as a community of faith. And so there'll be meetings. The citywide band that will be playing for us is basically you might say the cream of the crop from all the high schools. And they will be practicing on Tuesday nights over at Austin High School. And so there'll be some practice sessions for those. The young adult resource persons that are sponsored through the Lutheran Church hopefully will be doing some practicing for helping to lead the songs on that day. And so we're looking forward to a pretty exciting time.
It sounds it. Thank you.
And we said a short sermon.
A short
very
sermon,
short
not
sermon.
Very long.
Yeah.
We were talking about the actual specifics. Can you remind our viewers exactly what time and what date is it going to be at?
It's going to be Sunday, May 23rd at 4 p.m. at the Tony Berger Center.
Okay. Great. And how can the seniors get more information on this, and how are you disseminating some information at the various schools? Do you have some flyers and pamphlets that they can pick up? Are the counselors being informed? How is the information getting passed out to the seniors?
Well, primarily right now through the principals, on down through the counselors, and then out to the senior class presidents and so forth have all been had a letter sent out to them. We have representatives from the majority of the schools, and so the students themselves will be the best carrier of the word, so to speak. And within the next week or so, posters will be going up in the school, and the principals will be seeing to making sure that those are put in place. And so the word will be getting out. We have also set up public service announcements through the radio stations that will begin within the next week or so. Other television stations, as well as Channel 7 is helping us to get the word out through public service announcements. And the Austin American Statesman will be putting in the religion section, in the neighborhood section, as well as they're looking to also do a piece to come and interview some of the high school students that are getting involved with getting the preparations ready.
Great, so there'll be a lot of information coming out in the upcoming weeks before the ceremony.
We hope so.
There'll be information, be a program which will be distributed shortly, as well as the invitations which will go to all the high schools, which each high school is responsible for. So I'm sure the seniors will hear about it through their own high schools.
Don, you mentioned earlier when you were talking that in the past, each school had a baccalaureate service, and I was trying to remember my own, which was light years way back. And indeed, we had one, and Austin High School had one, and Anderson High School had one.
Right.
A lot of different schools. Will that be happening this year, or will it be just this one celebration?
I think a couple of schools that we know of will be doing that in a church, but probably somewhat organized by the senior class themselves, because the school itself cannot do this. So they may be going on and doing that anyway, and this may continue in some schools. We certainly don't want to discourage that. That's perfectly fine. And of course, also, we don't forget that a lot of congregations will have a special service for their graduating seniors, so that you might say there's 3 levels on which this can be done. And I think the main purpose, as Ellen said earlier, is to encourage the students to recognize the fact that this is a stepping stone to another dimension of life's challenges, and that we want them to know that the church is behind them and supporting them in this new venture that they are beginning to launch. And so I think that anything we can do to help them is what we're after.
Wonderful. Can you give us a little bit more of the understanding that the church is important for them? A lot of times young people don't believe their faith is that important. Can you give us an idea that what is the message, I guess, what you're trying, if there is a message that you're trying to get across in this baccalaureate service, can you give us an idea what that message would be and what you're looking that the young people get from this baccalaureate service?
Well, the theme that we chose was called, committed, challenged, a celebration. The idea being that there is a call that each person has to live his or her life to the very best of their ability, as God has given gifts and skills, and to seek a certain commitment, life commitment to service of their fellow human being, a certain commitment to live life to the fullest and not just self-gratification, which sometimes is a theme that we hear a lot nowadays, to get away from the me thought and begin to think of others. And that's where we feel that God has a part of this in sort of challenging us to live our lives according to a certain plan in the universe, and a plan for human life that youth, I think youth often feel that, and what may be our main challenge is to get the church to be relevant to them where they are, because sometimes we may have had a lot of God talk that really didn't relate to their everyday lives, and so that's a challenge to the church to be relevant.
Sure. And you were talking on a little bit earlier about the very specifics that were going to happen in the program itself. So hopefully some of the things, the message that will be given, and the songs that will be sung are going to adapt themselves to those types of issues. I'm imagining that y'all have worked at trying to get the issues and actually the program together and say, how can we speak through this during the celebration?
Absolutely. For instance, Psalms 150, and if you don't mind, the portion of that in Psalms 150 says that we praise the God in his sanctuary, in his mighty firmament, in his mighty deeds, but we praise him with trumpet sound, with lute and harp. These are words that especially the band students should be able to identify with.
And tambourine and dance, don't forget
with tambourine and dance, strings and pipe. So you're hearing words not only of celebration in the sense that young people can identify with, but certainly that calls to them. And I think that it's important for us to be tuned to what they're listening, and to realize that that even if you look at statistics, that there are more high school kids that are, and I don't mean to say kids, but teens, who are working in service works, more so in this generation than in generations past. And I think we need to pay attention to the fact that they're out there and willing to serve, to be committed, and to answer that call. So there's many points during the program where you'll hear these words where the sound of the trumpet is being called, and they're coming. And so the students themselves are helping to shape and fashion this program. So we hope it'll be an integral part of them, and that we can all celebrate in that.
And of course, there is a limit to what we can do in an hour's time, and we are trying to keep it
what it is,
down
about
to
an
an hour as much as we can, realizing that we may go over a little bit. But also that this is only the first one, and we think it might develop into a tradition, a citywide tradition, in which case it might develop more like you were saying, where the youth really do get some of their ideas and just, some of the things that they face as issues and concerns into it, so that it may not be as obvious this year as it may be later on.
If it does become a tradition in the Austin area, just a logistical question here, how are you funding this program, and who is sponsoring? Is Austin Metropolitan Ministries the main sponsor? Is AISD helping with the funding with that? How are you coming together?
No, AISD is not helping with the funding. This is not permitted. They are helping in the publicity, which is in a sense is a partial funding, but it's strictly in the publicity. But it's Austin Metropolitan Ministries, which is the sponsor. It's through contributions from churches and other sponsors that we are locating that will contribute, that feel that this is important, that will be willing to. It will not be very costly, so we don't have to worry about huge expenses.
Sure, but you're contacting other parishes and other churches and other congregations throughout the city for their support.
And donations are certainly welcome for any that feel that this is a worthy cause, which we do. So they can be sent to Austin Metropolitan Ministries.
Are there any plans in the works for any other celebrations or any other projects connected with AISD in the future? Do you have anything else on the books, sort to say?
There's a lot going on, which really is still in the talking stages. We're working on a dropout task force, which is trying to study the problem of the ones that do drop out, and how we can work with AISD in that area. I think we're really considering more about developing support groups, which there's a lot of demand for. And we feel, or what we hear from the school is that often the church has people that are trained in leading support groups, and that we feel this is one area that we should be offering as a way of service. And of course the mentoring thing we would like to encourage as much as possible, because mentoring 30 minutes a week can often redirect and change a child's life. So that there's lots of different ways that we're working on. But I think the musical event too, I think we need to realize that youth love music, and we've been planning, in fact we will have a citywide musical event in June.
Really?
It's going to be a combination of sponsors, the Catholic Diocese of Austin and the Austin Metropolitan Ministries, as well as the Texas Catholic Conference and the Texas Conference of Churches are sponsoring this Youth at Risk Conference, June 25th through 27th. And the evening, Saturday evening, this will be a youth musical event by different groups from all over the state.
Where is that going to be held?
It's going to be held at the hotel on 290 East, just north, what is it called?
The Red Line?
Red Line, right,
Okay.
Red Line. And it's a statewide conference.
Wonderful. A time for the youth to get together and just to celebrate. You're right. They enjoy the sound and the music, and it's a lot of fun to get together, and it gives, I think, the youth a lot of hope. What we'd like to do is take a break here in a few minutes, and when we come back, what we'd like to do is to talk about what this faith expression that we're celebrating in May at Baccalaureate means to our youth. What are they getting out of it? What is the message that we are sending to them? What's the message that they're sending to us as young people? And we'll talk about that when we return from the break. So I thank you for your opening comments on all the details that you're giving to us throughout the time. And once again, it's May
23rd at 4 p.m. Sunday afternoon.
at the Tony Berger Center.
Correct.
Right. Is there any transportation at all or anything that they're supposed to get there themselves? There are not any buses from any of the schools or anything like that?
Not at this time. If we find that that's a need, we will certainly make efforts to take care of that. But typically for the baccalaureates and so forth, Mom and Dad gets them there and so forth. The Tony Berger Center will be open up approximately an hour earlier than when it starts to allow people to get there and find their seats and so forth. And we'll have ushers and programs to get around.
Okay. We'll take a short break here, and when we will come back, we'll talk about how the faith expression that we'll celebrate in May will have an impact on our young people's lives. So we'll return after these messages.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627 because serving Austin means serving you.
Welcome back, everyone. Today with us is Donald, Bob, and Ellen Whittington, and we are talking about the baccalaureate service that will happen in late May for our high school graduating seniors. During our first session, we talked a lot about the specifics of the actual celebration in May, what the celebration is going to be like, the music, and how the kids have been involved with the planning of this session, the celebration. What I'd like to do now is if we could have a small discussion on what you're hoping that the youth come out with after this celebration. What are you trying to impress upon them through this celebration of faith? The theme for this celebration is called, Committed, Challenged, a Faith Celebration. What does it mean for a young person in our day and age to be called or committed or to be challenged? Ellen, what was the message that you would like for our young people to come away with at this baccalaureate service?
I guess a couple of things. First, I would like for them to remember that with graduation, that their faith doesn't stop. It's not this thing that because they're done with their school learning, that they're also done with learning about how God interacts in their life. And that God is a part of daily life, and that it goes and carries with them till the day they die. And that it's active, and it's real, and it's vibrant, and exciting, and carries them through. I mean, a lot of them will be going off to college. They'll be going to vocational schools, trade schools of different nature. They'll be going into the workforce. And they're going to be facing a lot of challenges. Challenges to make a living, challenges to do the right thing, hopefully. Challenges to be productive and of service to their fellow man. And there's going to also be a lot of pulls to do all of the negative things. And hopefully what they'll leave from this celebration is knowing how to celebrate God and how to take that celebration out into daily life. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of our young people are sometimes bored with the religion thing or the church thing, and it's good that we celebrate it and that they come out with a sense of energy and enthusiasm for their lives and for their churches,
Absolutely.
to the relationship with God, the relationship to the community as well. Reverend Bob, would you like to comment on what, as Austin Metropolitan Ministries, as a group and as the staff coordinator for that organization, what would you like for our young people to get out of this celebration at Baccalaureate?
Well, I think it's to recognize that youth today have tremendous decisions facing them in this world, which is very complex. Our society has a number of challenges which may not have been as prevalent or as dominant 10 or 20 years ago as they are now. And I think that it's time to pull together as the religious community to support them and to let them know that we're at the back of them as they face these new challenges. And of course, as Austin Metropolitan Ministry, we're also concerned about those who may not go to college, those who may not be oriented towards a vocational skill at this point, those that have dropped out or are dropping out or are just about to drop out. maybe teen parents and others that have maybe additional challenges because of their particular life situations. So that I think when we look at the youth situation in general, we've got a number of challenges as the religious community as to how to encourage them and guide them and lead them.
It's interesting at this age in their lives, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, they have the sense of uncertainty, and they don't know what the future is going to bring. And a lot of them do get bored with church and the community and the society as a whole, and they really don't know it. So it's wonderful that we're getting together as a community, not just churches, but as the Austin community surrounding, to get together and remind them that their ideas count, and their ideas are important to us, and that they're important people for us as well.
I think you hit on a point which I think our churches and congregations ought to remember, is that if we can incorporate them in the directing, in the life of the congregation more, not just have them being served, but also serving, that this will help them to feel more a part of the life of the congregation, which sometimes we have not been as conscious of. For example, even on the governing boards of a local congregation have youth present, because they have something to say. They've got a lot to say that's wonderful.
That's right.
And moreover, they know the times we're living in, and sometimes they got more insights than the adults do.
That's right.
And I think we really need to listen to them, and so that's, you know.
We just have a few minutes remaining in our program today. Could you give us a couple of wrap-up comments? If you could remind our viewers exactly the specifics surrounding this celebration of Baccalaureate, and if you'd like to add any further comments, we just have a few minutes remaining. Ellen?
Well, I just want to encourage all of them to come out and to realize that this is their service. The event itself can be exciting so long as they're willing to come excited and be a part of it. There's a lot to do that particular afternoon. There's a lot to see, a lot to be involved with, and I'm just excited about the fact that they get to have this sense of community of faith, that they get to have ownership of this program, they get to make it their own, and I think that's important.
And it's May 23rd, it's 4 o'clock at Tony Berger Center.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Don, your final comments.
We just hope that everyone will come, all the seniors will come, and their parents and families and people that would like to celebrate with them. And we just encourage wide participation in the city.
Wonderful. I'd like to thank you for joining us on Austin Faith Dialogue. I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of our Austin community of the ministry and the wonderful work that you do. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for coming today. And thank you, our members here, and welcome, and we hope you continue to join us on Austin Faith Dialogue.